Hey guys, big announcement before we get to today's episode. We are offering 30% off your weekend tickets over at blackbearmusicfest.com. Use the code ROADIE30, that's 30, when you check out at blackbearmusicfest.com. It's going to be a great festival. I can't wait to see you guys there. Don't forget, ROADIE30, you get 30% off your entire ticket order.
What's happening, roadies? This is Kim Watson.
This is Tom Lord Algie.
What's happening, roadies? This is Kwiz, and you're listening to Roadie Free Radio.
What's up, roadies? My name is Larry Milburn, and this is Roadie Free Radio, your VIP pass to meet and greet the stars behind the scenes of the music and film business. All right. What's happening, roadies? Thank you so much for coming back. This is your host, Larry Milburn. I am coming at you from a barn in Northwest Connecticut. This is episode 146, and my guest today is Kevin Kwiz Ryan. Before we get to him, as you heard in the beginning, we are offering 30% off Black Bear Americana Music Festival tickets. 30%, man. Head over to blackbearmusicfest.com. Use the code ROADIE30. I'm super psyched about this festival for several reasons. I'm going to give you two of them right now. My buddy, the Jason Spooner Band, is going to be there. Jason Spooner, who's been on the show, grew up with Jason. Head back, find his episode. Great tunes. He is killing it right now. His new record, his new single is doing really great. So Jason Spooner Band is going to be there Saturday afternoon. And Friday night headlining is my other good buddy, Jim Weeder from the Weight Band. 8 p.m., closing out the opening night of the festival. Very excited to have both those guys there doing their thing, listening to their music. So head on down, Black Bear Music Fest. Use that code ROADIE30. Get yourself 30% off. All right, so it's going to be a great festival. I can't wait to see you guys there. How have you been? What's going on? Are you all well? I hope so. If we got any new listeners this week, thank you so much for stopping by and tuning in and checking out Roadie Free Radio and these great inspiring stories. As I said, today's guest is Kevin Kwiz Ryan, one of the guys behind Beyonce and Jay-Z. We had a great talk. We're going to get to that in a second. But man, we had a couple of big losses this week. Rick Ocasek from the Cars, Eddie Money. I have strange little connections to both of these dudes. Eddie Money was in an episode of the Drew Carey Show way back, and that was one of my first sort of big TV moments back in LA when I was an actor many years ago, 95, no, maybe 98, somewhere in there. And I actually had a small scene with Eddie Money. I played a security guard at one of his concerts, a bouncer, I guess, in front of his dressing room door. And I got to hang with Eddie for a bit backstage and just, shoot the shit with him while we were waiting to do our bit. Super nice guy, super sweet guy, and obviously a powerhouse musician and songwriter. Tough loss there. Rick Ocasek, the Cars. Come on, man. Anybody who came through the 80s, you got run over by the Cars, didn't you? And just a mountain of hits there. And Rick Ocasek, as everybody pretty much knows, was married to Paulina Porizkova for very long. And way back when I was a kid, my best friend Jake's father was a key grip. And she was in a film, Her Alibi, that was the film, was in a film, I believe, with Tom Selleck. And on a summer vacation, we went down to stay with my buddy Jacob's dad and got to hang out on set and just oogle Paulina all day. And Rick was there, as was Whoopi Goldberg. It was a star-studded event. It was pretty cool, just hanging out. Anyway, so I got to meet him, I think, for like 3 seconds. But anyway, 2 tough losses. Guys, we are sponsored today by Stagehands Clothing out of Chicago, Illinois. They are your one-stop shop, man, for high-quality, durable workwear and accessories for backstage and on-set professionals. As you know, by the way, it's getting a little chilly here back in New England. I've got my black Stagehands Clothing sweatshirt on right now. Super comfortable, and I love wearing this thing. You got to be ready for the next task. You got to check out stagehandsclothing.com. Use the code ROADIE to get 20% off your entire order. Man, you can get pants, you can get sweatshirts, t-shirts, long sleeve t-shirts. Now that it's getting colder, you get 20% off when you use the code ROADIE over there at stagehandsclothing.com. If you are watching stuff on Netflix, I suggest you head over to check out Hip Hop Evolution. That series is back. Season 3 has started. It's up. And I plowed through about 3 episodes. We're now in the, what I watch? I watched about Biggie and Tupac. I watched Eminem's rise and all that good stuff, all that good underground rapping and hip hop and just bringing it back to the roots of hip hop. Cool stuff, man. If you grew up in that time, then you know, NWA, all these bands, they were part of it. If you step outside the rock and roll thing and you head over to the hip hop, then you know what I'm talking about. Put up a video last week. If you want to go to the YouTube channel and check it out, tips and tricks on how I film concert footage, how I get my concert footage, lenses that I use, some techniques that I use, things that I go over. I want to thank the sponsor of that video, airturn.com. You guys know them. Why? Because I use the AirTurn Go stand in my everyday use. Anyway, thank you guys to AirTurn for sponsoring that video. If you want to see it, head over and check it out and subscribe to the channel, Roadie Free Radio. We just hit 300 subscribers, man. I think we're actually at 302 as of this recording. So find us on YouTube, Roadie Free Radio. We are also sponsored today by ShowPro Beard Co. My buddy Chris Wilson, the audio wizard. If you haven't started following him on YouTube, you should do so immediately. The audio wizard. Find him. Anyway, he's got his very own unique formula of beard balm that not only performs well in terms of health and nourishment, it also provides the control, shine, and pleasant aroma that any bearded professional would appreciate. These are non-waxy, all-natural beard balms that will leave your beard soft, smooth, and nourished. Choose from a variety of natural-smelling scents like Home Sweet Home, Morning Wood, Through the Woods, Chain Motor Oil, and, of course, original unscented. Listen, when you use the code ROADIE, when you check out over there, you get 20% off that order as well. So head over to ShowPro Beard Co. Use that code ROADIE. Get yourself 20% off. All right, here we go. We're going to get right to it. Today's guest, as I mentioned, is Kevin Kwiz Ryan, producer, arranger, mixer, programmer, musician, artist developer, good dude from the Bronx. It has taken us a year, literally, to get this episode recorded, get it done, and get it out. I met him a year ago at AES, and we just, you know, everybody's busy, man. We've been trying to do it, and we finally found the window. So this was recorded a couple of weeks ago. I do want to say that. And the Skype connection gets a little funky here and there. I tried to clean it up as best as possible, so just bear with it, though, because we got some nuggets, man. Kevin is best known for his work with Beyonce as well as Jay-Z. He's got a huge, long list of credits going way back to the 80s. This is another inspiring tale, folks. I got to tell you, I saw a tweet from a woman yesterday who was talking about the fact that she's still waiting tables, and it was like, how do you hang in there and wait tables or do something like that when you've got all this other passion? I tweeted her back and I was like, just hang in there, do something every day that's toward your goal, and eventually you can make the leap. But I've been there, I've done it. And this tale with Kevin is certainly no different. He was a rental car salesman at Avis. He had a family. He overcame dyslexia. He did it all, man. And his passion and his gratitude for what he does pulls him through any hardship or setbacks that he has faced in his life. And I just had a great time talking with him. And he really, good dude, and a great attitude, a great humble attitude. He's also married to Tiffany Moníque, lead backup vocalist for Beyonce, and I'm going to have her on the show as well because she sounds like a powerhouse, and he speaks very highly of her. I also appreciate a man who gives props to his wife because, as we all know, man, without a spouse of some form in your life or someone, you know, positive right there with you, it'd be tricky. All right, so here we go, guys. Thanks for tuning in. Let's get it on with Kevin Kwiz Ryan.
Hit it. Call yourself a roadie. Call yourself a roadie. Call yourself a roadie.
Kwiz, what's happening, man? How are you, dude?
I'm good, man. Just glad to be on Roadie Free Radio. What's going on?
Oh, thank you. I'm glad to have you. I'm glad it finally worked out, dude. I know there's been some stuff for both of us that's prevented this from happening.
No doubt.
What are you in the middle of, man? What are you doing?
Right now, producing and recording a couple of artists that I'm working with. My wife is an artist as well, and she's Beyonce's main background singer, and she decided she wanted to do an album. We were supposed to put out an EP, and then she was like, "Oh, I just want to make it an album." So more work for me.
Right. Yeah, you can't say no, right?
Right, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Right.
So, I'm working on that project. I'm working on there's a couple of indie artists that I'm recording and mixing for, you know. And then Beyonce is supposed to be doing Cool Citizen in New York, I think at the end of September. So I'm waiting to find out if I'm going to be involved in that. And that's it, man. I compose music for ESPN as well. Yeah. Been doing that since 2001, something like that. So wow. I'm expecting a project to come up this fall, I believe they said, to do some more music for them. So yeah, I'm just trying to stay busy, man.
It's funny that you say, "Oh, I got this, I'm doing that." Just trying to stay busy, whatever. It's quite, quiet, whatever. It seems like it's quiet for you, because I did some research. Mm-hmm. And one of the things I wanted to jump in with you, and I guess now's as good a time as any, man, is how do you balance all this stuff? Because not only, you have a lot of stuff with Beyonce you're doing, you're producing other artists, you are a musician yourself, you're composing, right. You also have a music production company. Right. You do A&R, basically artist development for your company. Right. Uh-huh. So your wife's a musician. She wants an album, right? Like it's all coming at you, and you're able to all get it done. You perform in this industry at a pretty high level, man. And so thanks. I'm curious, how do you balance it all, basically?
Well, number one, I love what I do, so. It's just, you just find time, you know what I mean? Because, I absolutely have to spend time with my family. I have my youngest daughter's starting college, actually have to move her into her dorm this weekend. Wow. So it's just a lot of stuff, and you just have to find, there's a lot of multitasking going along, sometimes, but you find the time. It's, I love my family, that's first, and I love doing what I do. So, it all just kind of melds together, you know what I mean? And we make it happen. So
that's your youngest daughter going off to college. So how many kids do you have? How old is your oldest?
Oh, man, I'm going to date myself, really. But I have twin sons, and they're 32. Whoa. And then I have a daughter that's 20 who's starting her junior year at St. Francis. And my youngest daughter is starting her freshman year at NYU. Stern Business School. She got a full ride to Stern Business School at NYU, so I'm so proud of her.
Oh, man, congrats. That's amazing.
Yeah,
that's super cool.
Yeah, thank you.
Good.
Saves daddy everything.
Everything.
I don't have to mortgage, sell my house. You know what I mean?
I do. Wow, man, that's impressive. Yeah. What, does she know what area she wants to focus in?
Well, she's right now business. And the thing is, she's been going to school all summer because she was part of this thing called the STEP program. And she got the full scholarship, and that's great. But part of the STEP program is they wanted her to start NYU this summer so she can really get acclimated into what it's like to be a college student. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. So this week she's off. This is her first week off of the summer. So she's a little bit fried, but she's happy too. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it is what it is. Yeah.
It just struck me too that because in your artist development world, those are your babies also. Right. Mm-hmm. You got to foster careers. You're guiding people's careers. You're giving advice. You're trying to get them to the next thing and all this kind of stuff. Right. So I'm curious how you handle that sort of stuff when you're out on the road.
Well, this is kind of a downer, but like I had a business partner. He was my best friend basically, and he passed away this past November. He got cancer, and he was fighting it, and he lost the battle in November. So, it's been a lot harder to juggle some of the things that I do now that he's gone. But when I was on the road, Marlon would basically cover some of the things that I couldn't do, like some of the day-to-day things that I couldn't do. Yeah. And he was a producer as well. So there is a couple artists we were working with that primarily, like all of 2018 and the 2017, he was working with them because I was just so busy with the Beyonce thing that I really couldn't do much.
Sure.
We would just check in on the phone every few days, to see how things are going, whatever. But that's how we were doing it. So now, pretty much a lot of stuff has fallen in my lap, like exclusively. Fortunately for me, my wife is super intelligent, and my wife pretty much handles most of her stuff on her own. I don't have to worry about her as much. She bounces some things off of me because, like anything else, you want a different opinion, but, she's pretty much easy to deal with. Some of the other artists that I'm trying to develop, it's just like anything else. You try to work with people, you try to understand what they want, what their needs are, what their goals are. And with today's musical environment, things are weird. You know what I mean? It's not like when I was younger. When I was younger, I signed a production deal with Capitol Records, and pretty much it was about your talent. You know what I mean? And I had a girls group that I had on Capitol, and we did what we did, and but it was about the talent. Now it's all about social media. How many followers do you have? And all this stuff. And I have two artists that I could think of right now that, even though they're young and they're on social media, that's not their main goal. Their main goal is to really work on their craft. And, sometimes you'll run into record label people and you'll talk about certain things and they'll ask, well, how many followers do they have? And it's about the music, man. It's about the talent. It's not about how many followers. That's going to happen eventually, but let's focus on what we have here. You know what I mean?
I do, yeah.
So, and there's a couple of labels out there that understand that, but they're few and far between. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
it's tough sometimes.
So how do you temper some of the younger kids? Look, we'll call them kids,
right?
Right? How do you temper them to be patient with that in today's climate where it's all about social and what's your phone and like all that kind of stuff, and just try to shift their thinking to be like, look, you just got to focus on the music. Don't get caught up in likes, don't get caught up in followers and all that kind of stuff. How do you guide them through some of that?
Well, the main thing that I say is how successful do you want to be and how long do you want to be in this business? And without naming names, I can point out flash in the pan artists that, oh yeah, who they are for a second, but they're only there for a second. Like they have their 15 minutes of fame and then it's over and you never hear about them again.
Right.
And is that the type of career you want, or do you want longevity? And if you want longevity, there's levels to that. You know what I mean? Just going back to the Beyonce thing, she's not as big as she is because she just wanted to just sing. I mean, she works extremely hard on a multitude of levels regarding her career. You know what I mean? And she had her father was a great manager. He was a great sensei in a way, you know what I mean? Of teaching her how to, market herself. Even back in the early 90s when Destiny Child was, he knew how to develop that. And that's what's kind of missing in a lot of, there's some pocket artists right now, like you might like Cardi B. There's there's some intelligence there. I mean, people think, oh, she's so silly and she's this and this and that. But that woman is intelligent. She knows what she's doing. And that you could see that there's that she's in steps she's taking to get to the level that she's at. Where there's other artists where it's like, they're not going to be around that long. So if you have the patience and you want and you have the drive, you can be successful. But if you don't have the patience and you just want to have a record out tomorrow, well, shoot, we can upload this to iTunes and it'll be out in a couple of days and we'll see how it does. There's no marketing behind it. There's no video behind it. There's nothing. So if people don't know it's there, how are you going to sell it?
Right. Having
it on iTunes is that's not success. That's just another means of just getting your stuff in just getting it out there to the point where people, if they do find it, they can listen to it or buy it.
Right.
But how are they going to find it? You know what I mean?
Yeah. And,
I always tell, the artists that I work with that marketing really is the name of the game.
Right.
So.
Which in that case, that's where social media can help. Right. But you gotta have your craft together.
Right.
You gotta be good.
Right.
And then just, it's, whatever. They're no different than billboards. They're, Facebook, Instagram, they're just billboards, right? They're digital billboards that we get to carry around in our pocket. And if you know how to use it properly, it will help get your craft out there. But like you said, if you're not talented or you don't put in the work to become talented and successful, then what are you marketing?
Yeah, exactly.
Just another face, right?
Yeah. It's a grind. It's everything, it's so much easier to put out music nowadays than it was when I was first coming up. But it's so much harder to be successful.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So.
Yeah. But you've got the longevity already, and you've got the experience in your career when you're talking to someone younger who's coming up to be able to help guide them. And I imagine that's what you do to give back.
Yeah, definitely.
What other ways do you help give back?
Well, basically with the artists that I work with, most of them, I don't charge them any studio time because I know that, it's hard, it's hard to, and then I have a certain rate that I go for. I don't have much of a sliding scale. It's like, this is my rate. This is what it is. And I know some of them can't afford to pay it.
Sure.
But if I believe in them and I see that they have the drive, I'll let them come in the studio and I'll mix their stuff for free sometimes. Sometimes I'll say, well, see if you can throw me $100 here or whatever. You know what I mean? Something to show me that you really, really want this. And if that's all you can come up with, that's fine. You know what I mean?
Sure.
And, it's my wife hates that, but it's she doesn't hate it in the sense like, why are you giving away everything? But she just feels like sometimes I'm a little too generous. But I had help coming up. Everybody needs help. You know what I mean? So I just try to help when I can.
Let's talk a bit about those coming up years, man. Born and raised in the Bronx?
Yep. Yeah.
Music in your family?
No. I mean, not really, no. My parents, they sing around the house or whatever, but nothing major.
Yeah. What'd your folks do?
My father was a detective and my mother was a registered nurse.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's cool.
And I was a bad kid. So it was, everybody would be like, how do you get in so much trouble when your father's a cop? Like,
right.
But I don't know. How
so
mischievous.
What years were you a kid in the Bronx?
I don't want to say.
Come on.
Let's just say the 70s.
Okay.
Well, let's say the 70s.
All right. So I was a kid in Manhattan in the 70s.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
So around the same time, back when New York was like New York.
New York was New York. It was grimy. 42nd Street was grimy. Like, yeah.
You'd get out of Port Authority. It was like, whoa, man. Look at all those fun movie theaters.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah. But that was an interesting time.
Yeah, man. It was crazy. And so what kind of trouble did you get into?
Oh man, oh my gosh. I did interesting things like I really don't want to talk about that. I don't want to talk about that.
All right.
Yeah,
Fair enough. Big family, small family?
Nah, I'm an only child.
Only child.
Yeah, I'm an only child, and I grew up, in a middle class area in the Bronx, but we were like on the borderline of the hood.
Yep.
And, you know what I mean? So a lot of my friends were, they were street cats, and they were my friends. So I ended up kind of gravitating towards some of the things they were doing,
Sure.
And I'll put it to you. I'll leave it at that. You know what I mean?
Okay, I do.
But
yeah.
that's. Yeah.
When did were you a good student?
Yeah, you know what? I was a decent student in grade school and in the beginning of high school. When I was, I think, it was third grade. I was diagnosed with, having dyslexia because, I did struggle. And I'll tell you, my mother was a registered nurse, but my mother taught it. So my mother was a teacher, and as well as a registered nurse. So she would always have to drill me with my homework, and she just didn't understand, like, how come he's not grasping certain things? And my thing was always numbers. Like I still do. I get numbers mixed up, and I have to go through a thing in my head to, refocus and, so I can lock in. But, she took me to see somebody, and they said, oh, he has dyslexia. And so that shifted how I had to learn. But once I got that kind of locked in, and it took like years for it to get locked in, I was pretty much a good student on my own without my mother drilling me.
Yeah.
I told my wife this one time, I pretty much in grade school, I got A's and B's. In math, I would always get C's, or I'd even fail. Like, I had to go to summer school for math one year because those numbers, man, they just would mess with me.
Yeah.
But my sophomore year in high school, I remember I got a C in geometry, and everything else were A's and B's. And I was like, oh, man, I'm going to be on punishment because my parents would be on punishment. I was bad anyway, but I was like, I'm going to be on punishment, and this sucks, man. And I brought my report card home, and I showed it to my dad, and he looked at it, and he saw that C in geometry, and he was like, all right, make sure you get this geometry up next time. And in my mind, I was like, that's it? Like, that's it? Now, a normal person would be like, okay, oh, my dad's the greatest. I'm going to work hard.
Yeah.
I got C's in everything from junior year to senior year because I could study for 5 minutes and get a C. You know what I mean? Like, it was easy to get C's. I mean, I'm not gonna say I got straight C's, but like most of my grades, with the exception of like gym and like Spanish, I think I was pretty good at Spanish. But exception of gym and Spanish, I got C's, man. Like, I was like, I can get a C easy. So needless to say, I stayed on punishment besides the other stupid stuff I was doing.
That's funny, man. That's funny. Was it hard? Was it hard for you? When the dyslexia was diagnosed, was that a hard adjustment for you with your friends and stuff? Yeah.
Well, my friends didn't know. None of my friends knew. It's like really, what was that? It was maybe about 6 months ago. I literally did this long post on Facebook talking about like my life in a way, and saying, basically saying how grateful I was for some of the things that have happened to me. And, I revealed certain things. I talked about the dyslexia. I talked about some other things that I did that could have easily had me incarcerated for decades. And, I got past certain things, and I was just really grateful. It was one of those moments you wake up and you're like, man, your life is so good, man. And it could have gone a completely different direction. You know what I mean?
I do.
And so I talked about it, and some of my friends were like, "Oh man, I had no idea." And some of my family members, well, aunts, who was my mom's sister, my mom never told my aunt, but apparently my mom would vent to my aunt about how much of a struggle I was having in school. And my aunt posted, I now understand what your mom was talking about. My mom passed away, but my aunt was like, I now understand what she was talking about. I don't know why my mom didn't tell. Maybe she was embarrassed or ashamed or something. I don't know.
Sure.
But yeah, it was difficult at times because especially when you're not stupid, but for some reason you just can't just lock in. It's frustrating as hell, man.
Yeah, I know. So I got tested when I was in high school.
Okay.
Because I always like my, English and reading comprehension and all that kind of stuff, memory off the charts, fantastic. But math for me was terrible. Yeah. Particularly geometry, algebra, stuff like that, right?
Yeah,
so in high school, finally, and my mom all the way through kept asking the teachers, like, what's going on? Should we get tested? No. He's just got to work harder. He's just got to work harder, right? Mm-hmm. And so I finally got tested in high school, and it turns out I have a learning disability with abstract reasoning and spatial relations.
Yeah.
So geometry, right?
Yep.
Like I'd have a tutor, and he'd do one of those theorems. And we'd get to the end, I'd be like, okay, I understand that. And he'd be like, all right, great. And he'd move that one aside, give me one that looked basically the same.
Same.
I have no idea.
Yeah.
Right? I'd have no idea where to start. And he was like, wow.
Yeah. With me, like I had problems with threes. I had problems with nines, because the threes and nines in my mind reverse themselves, especially the nines. The nines will turn into a 6. The threes will turn into a B.
Wow.
In my mind. And before I understood what was going on, I would be like, I don't understand. Like, as a little kid, I'm talking about 3rd grade. I'm like, why is there a B there? And people would be like, what are you talking about? There's no, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And my mom would get frustrated and I would get frustrated, and I'm sitting at the dining room table crying, going over my homework because I can't figure it out. It's frustrating. And it took a long time for me to, like, did they give you, when you got diagnosed, did they give you like these exercises on how to disassociate yourself from the work and then reapply yourself back to the work? Like literally disconnect for a second, do something else, come back and look at it again and tell me if you see the same thing. Did you have those kind of exercises?
It's funny. I don't really remember. I remember the tests. I remember some of the testing itself. Mm-hmm. And then I remember having to have a tutor, special tutor, and then having to get extra time on tests so I could take a little longer to do it. But some of the actual application of things,
right?
I don't remember, and I'm sure as shit if I sat down to do a geometry problem right now, I wouldn't know where to start.
Yeah.
But that makes sense to do that. I mean, shit, it makes sense to do that in life with any kind of problem, right?
Yeah, right.
Take a break and but God, I'm just thinking about it as you say that, like serial numbers or Wi-Fi passwords they must be a fucking pain in the ass for you, man.
Well, you know what? None of my passwords have numbers in them. Except for the ones that they say you have to have.
Right.
And I'll use one digit and that's it. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
and not a 3.
Threes don't exist until they have to. You know what I mean? Like, man, it's like, I remember when my daughters were younger and they were still in grade school. And I think it got Rachel once she got in middle school, I couldn't help her with her math anymore. I couldn't help it with because I couldn't understand any of it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I'm like, stay away. Now, here's the crazy thing. This is where math, I got better at it. When I was in high school, I started to DJ, and I really was really heavily into it. And I wanted to make my own speakers. I wanted to make my own bass cabinets and things like that. And I had a friend that taught me some carpentry, and my dad saw that I was really interested, so he bought me some power tools. And I literally was in my parents' apartment, in my room, sawdust everywhere, making speakers for myself and my friends. And when I would design these cabinets, of course, especially and dealing with ohms and resistance, you had to do a certain level of math. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But for some reason, I could figure that out. Like, I mean, I still have them because I'm proud of them, because that was a serious accomplishment for me. You know what I mean?
Sure.
But that's when it clicked that, if it's something I'm really interested in, I'll figure it out somehow. I'll just figure it out because I really want to do it. Yeah.
Tell me some of the musical influence, because mid-1970s to late 1970s, early 80s, New York, Bronx, Brooklyn, serious time, heavy times, right?
Yeah.
So tell me what was going on for you musically at that time.
Okay, well, when I was 9, I started taking drum lessons. And I took drum lessons for about a year. And all I had was in my house, a snare drum and a little cymbal. And I got frustrated because I wanted a full kit. And so I was like, I don't want to take any more drum lessons. This sucks. I'm just doing, you know what I mean? Paradiddles and stuff like that. So I didn't do anything musically related until I was 14. And then I begged my parents for a drum set. And they got me a drum set for Christmas. And while, and I started taking lessons again. While I was taking lessons, one of my drum teachers was just telling me about fusion jazz. And listen to this drummer, listen to Billy Cobham, listen to this guy, listen to Steve Gadd, listening to a lot of fusion jazz, and that was a major influence on me. Like, and then at a certain point, I was like, I want to be a studio drummer. This is it. Like, I want to play like that. So I practiced a lot. I was really good at baseball. I took martial arts as well, but drums were like, wow, this is it. You know what I mean? So I thought I was going to be a studio drummer, and that was going to be my career. I'm going to be like Steve Gadd. I'm going to play on all these big records. I'm going to, I'm going to develop this style that people were like, wow, this guy's amazing. And then EMU, well, forget about the Lend drum. The Lend drum, remember when Lend drums came out?
Yeah, I think so.
I don't. The first, even though Lend drum was like, and also the TR-808. I think that was like the first drum machines, right?
Yeah.
They didn't really jump on my radar until I saw the EMU drumulator. And the EMU drumulator came out, and I was like, wow, people are doing records with drum machines now. And then I started talking to different musician friends of mine, and I'm going to get this drum machine. I'm going to get this. And then I'm like, where's that leave space for guys like me?
Right.
I'm listening to all these records, because I'm DJing too now at this point.
Sure.
And I'm listening to all these records, and I hear all these Lend drums, and and there's no live drummers on these things, man. And that's when I was like, oh man, I think my studio drummer situation might not work out too good. So I gravitated towards learning how to program drum machines, you know what I mean, and make beats.
How old are you around this time?
Like 18, 19.
All right. So now we're maybe late 70s?
Yeah, this was like 79, 80.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Right. So the only live drums you're hearing on records probably are like breaks.
Exactly.
Right.
You know, on breaks or like,
that you were spinning probably if you're DJing.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of stuff were you DJing?
In the beginning, I was doing a lot of club music.
Okay.
You know, so it was mostly drum machines. I mean, you would have some records that had live, you know, drums, but not many.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I was like, man, this is
a problem.
I got to shift. Yeah, this is a problem. I got to shift.
Yeah.
You know, because I was going to, at the time I was going to college and I didn't know what I really wanted to do. I was just, I'll be an archaeologist. Like, you know what I mean? like just stupid. It's like, I like, you think I'm playing. Like, I had, my major was communications and my minor was archaeology / geology because I was interested in that kind of stuff.
Sure.
But like, for real, I didn't really want to be a geologist or an archaeologist. Like, I just was like, I like rocks. I like looking at nature. So, you know what I mean?
I like rocks.
No, for real. I'm fascinated by that kind of stuff. But
well, there's history, man. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, I remember we took some geology classes. I'll never forget in high school, and they took us out to I don't know if it was an abandoned part of the highway or it was closed off for construction. Somehow they got us in there. Right. And so you could walk along and see those big rips of rock, you know, where they blast through and see all the striations or whatever they call them, or levels, right? Mm-hmm. And it is fascinating because it all tells a story.
Yeah. When I was in college, we did a field trip to the Palisades. Yeah. To the cliffs. And you could, like, literally, we were finding fossils, like we're finding shells and everything deep in, you know, in layers of rock. So
skeletons.
We didn't find that.
In the 70s, right? I mean, you never know, man. Yeah. Oh, look, this one says Gotti on it. Okay.
Nah, but I hear you. That is possible, especially back then.
That's what I mean.
That's
what I mean. So where were you spinning?
Oh, I was doing like a lot of house parties, and then there were 2 roller rinks in the Bronx. One was called the Skating Palace, and one was called Bruckner Roller Rink on Bruckner Boulevard in the South Bronx. So I would spin there on the weekends. You know what I mean? I wasn't the premier DJ. I was just one of the DJs that had a slot on the weekends, you know. And I did that, and I loved it for a minute.
Making some money.
Yeah, making a couple of bucks. I mean, especially for a young kid back then, you know, it was pretty cool. And then the girls, you know, it was like, the girls, I like that, you know.
So, of course.
So it was cool. It was cool. But music, me creating music was always something I wanted to do. And I used to make, you know, you have your little 2 cassette decks and you're making your mixtapes and your stuff like that, and I would talk over them, but I wasn't talking over them like an MC, like a rapper MC. Right. I was literally talking over them like I was on a radio station.
You were giving your first interviews.
Well, something like that. You know what I mean? Like, you know, and one of my friends said, "You're going to be a producer one day." I was like, what does a producer do? You know how you had albums and you read the liner notes and stuff. And I saw produced by such and such. I never knew what they did. And my friend said, you're going to be a producer, but he didn't really know what they did. But he just felt like this is something I think you're going to be doing. So I found out what a producer did, and that fascinated me. And, you know, my thing was like, well, I just play the drums. I don't think I could be a producer. For some reason back then, I thought because I didn't play a melodic instrument that I couldn't really be a producer. I don't know why I thought that. So I decided, well, I want to teach myself how to play chords, and begged my mom to buy me a synthesizer. And, you know, my mom was not going to spend $4,000 for, you know, like a Prophet 5 at the time or whatever it was. But there was this synthesizer made by Moog called the Moog Rogue.
Okay.
And it was a monophonic synthesizer. And it was only like 2 octaves, but I got it and I started learning the notes. So the first things I was learning how to play were bass lines and lead lines and things like that. And then eventually I saved up enough money through working, during the summer and stuff to buy. It was a keyboard by Korg. I think it was called the Poly 61, and that was the first polyphonic synthesizer. And I kind of taught myself how to play. I mean, I had help with some keyboard players, and they would give me little tips here and there. But I never took lessons or anything. And like I can't read piano music or anything like that. I could just read music. But that's how I got into the melodic thing. And then I started trying to write songs and compose music. And, it just, over the years, it just developed. And I picked up the bass and I started playing around with the bass and, just doing what you do just because you're the only one doing it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally. How were your folks? How was your dad, your detective dad, with you changing gears in college to be a musician?
I'll put it to you like this. In my junior year, my lower junior year, I dropped out of college, and my parents were not happy at all. They were not happy at all. And, my dad was like, well, whatever you're doing, you're not going to just sit around here and just, twiddle your thumbs and be in your room messing around with drum machines and stuff like that. So at a certain point, my dad and I really bumped heads and I moved out. Well, I should say I got kicked out. So I was on my own, and it was one of the best things that probably my dad did for me because it made me really realize what it's like to be an adult in the world and have to pay your own bills and and it was cool. I was given that tough life lesson that I needed. You know what I mean? And it was cool. You know what I mean?
How old were you when you finally did the Jeff Redd session? And did
Jeff Redd. That was, I think I was like 22 or 23, something like that.
You did vocal arranging on that.
Yeah.
That's like your first professional gig?
First professional gig. Jeff Redd. Yep. Oh man. No, wait a minute. Let me think about that. I was older than that. That was like 1988, I think. So I was like 27, 28 years old when that happened. Yeah, I forgot it was that date. But yeah, it was my first professional gig. And that was a great learning experience because I didn't even know what vocal arrangement was. I just knew, like, on this line, you need a harmony. Sing this harmony, sing this note, boom, boom here. And then, all right, stop there. And then let's build this harmony for the chorus. I just knew that I wanted that sound from him. And I literally, with the Jeff Redd situation, I literally did those arrangements on a 4-track. Remember those Tascam 4-track recorders, the rack-mounted one?
Yeah.
I had one of those, and I had a small Tascam mixer that had like 6 inputs. And we did the demo on that 4-track, stacked all the vocals on this 4-track, and when we played it for Andre Harrell, who was at the time he was the president or the owner of Uptown Records. He loved what it sounded like, and then we just had to redo everything in the commercial studio.
Yeah.
And I had the crazy thing is on that song, I had my girlfriend at the time singing background, and this unknown artist named Mary J. Blige singing background as well.
Wow.
Yeah, it was cool.
Wow.
It was cool. What people like, you never hear in the stories, but you can. If you ever, can get in touch with Mary J. Blige, but she'll tell you. People tell you, oh, Mary got her deal because she did this karaoke demo at Macy's, and that's how she got signed. That's partially true. She did do a karaoke demo, But Andre Harrell, because I had just finished working with Jeff Redd, asked me to do an official with an original song demo on her. So I wrote a song for her, and she did that song, and she covered this song by Angela Winbush, I believe, called Angel. And we recorded that in my living room in Queens. And that's how she got the deal. That demo is what made Andre Harrell say, okay, yeah, I want to sign her. You know,
wow.
So,
wow,
yeah.
man. That's pretty intense.
Yeah, it's cool.
So from like 21, let's just say, around that sounds like that's maybe how old you were when your dad gave you the boot.
Mm-hmm.
To 27.
Mm-hmm.
You just start figuring out, this is what I want to do. I'm going to be a quote unquote producer, whatever that is.
Right.
And I'm going to start teaching myself how to do this.
Yeah.
Because you didn't go back to school.
No. And in between those times, my sons were born. My twin sons were born. So it was like all of that going on, plus having kids. And, you know, it was tough, man.
What'd you do?
And I was working at Avis Rent-A-Cars.
Avis Rent-A-Cars. Remember that?
I was working at Avis Rent-A-Cars. I was a rental agent.
Yep. Wow, man. Making it happen.
Yeah.
So what'd you start doing when you sort of realized, okay, that's what I'm doing? Did you start listening to music differently? Did you go back to records and start dissecting them in a different way to kind of figure out like, oh, that's a harmony or that's a counterpart or whatever, you know what I mean? To start like teaching yourself the language and how these things fit together sonically?
Sort of. You know, like I said, just from being a drummer, I had other musician friends. So I understood how just through dealing with them and listening to records, I understood how to craft a song, what a song structure was. I just didn't, I think I knew a lot of things. I just didn't know what they were officially called. Like I didn't know that there was a real vocal arranger.
Right.
Like I didn't know that, well, I learned later by, you know, reading record liners. Oh, there's people that do string arrangements. There's people that do horn arrangements. There's arrangers for all kinds of stuff. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I did, in a sense, listen to a lot of records, and I guess I did dissect them. Now that you're asking, I never really thought about it, but yeah, I think I did just dissect a lot of stuff and go, oh, this is why this particular line works with this other line or whatever. And I listened to all kinds of music because the good thing about being a DJ and, you know, I was a good enough DJ that I was asked to join a record pool. And, you know, each week in the record pool, they give you a certain amount of records. You have to listen to the records, review them, and then play them at the venues that you play at to see what kind of reaction you're going to get. So I had like every genre of music with the exception of probably opera, you know, in my record collection. So I had thousands of records, man, and I listened to a lot of stuff over the years. And there were just certain things that certain productions that I gravitated towards, and the main one was Quincy Jones. Oh, like man. I loved how Quincy Jones put his records together. Yeah, you know what I mean. So
favorite Quincy album?
Probably The Dude. The Dude and Secret Garden. Like okay. I really like those albums. Yeah. But
he's amazing, man. Yeah. Did you catch that documentary about him?
No, I actually met him. No.
You've met him?
I haven't seen the beat. Yeah, I actually met him like about 2 or 3 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was that a big highlight for you?
Absolutely. And the thing is, I was so nervous. I didn't really want to say anything to him because, all right, I'll give you the scenario. It was at a Beyonce, sort of like an after party thing. We were on the road. We were in LA, And I honestly can't remember why she was having this party, but I had just put out an album called The Black Light Chronicles. I just put it out, and one of Beyonce's publicist was doing me a favor and doing a little publicity for me as well. And we're at this party. We're upstairs on this one level, and it's like Beyonce and Jay are sitting like maybe about 20 feet from me. And there's like this little buffet, and everybody's going around getting their food. And Quincy Jones is sitting at this table by himself, eating. And Yvette, the publicist, tells me, go over and introduce yourself to Quincy and tell him you're going to be the next Quincy. Now, I didn't know what to say to this man. I knew he was there. I didn't know what to say to him. And once she told me that, I was like, well, I got something to say. I'm not afraid to speak to anybody. Like, especially if you challenge me to do something, I'm not afraid. Like, you don't think I'll do that? Okay. So I went over to Quincy Jones like an idiot and said exactly what she told me. Now, I knew, in hindsight, I should have, done some editing. Right. but I went over to Quincy and I literally, crouched down, like kneeled down, and was like, how you doing, Mr. Jones? It was really nice to meet you. This is, I told him my name, and I told him what I did for B, and I told him about my album. And I said, I was told to tell you that I'm going to be the next Quincy Jones. And he looked at me, and he was like, what sign are you? And I said, I'm a Virgo. He goes, yeah, I could see that. Michael Jackson was a Virgo, right? And I was like, oh, okay, cool. So at that point, the man is eating. I didn't know what else to say to him. So I just said, well, it was nice meeting you. Thank you, and I'm a huge fan. And that was it. And I left him alone. You know what I mean? But I should have done some editing.
Yeah. I don't know. It sounds like you got a good response, man.
I mean, yeah, but you know what? The thing that I regret about that and a few other encounters I've had with different celebrities is I never in the moment think of how I could follow up and create a relationship with those people.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's just like, I'm in the moment, and then I leave, and then I'm like, damn, I should have given them a business card, or I should have tried to get more information, or you know what I mean?
Yeah. But here's the thing when you think about that, because I go through that too sometimes, right? And I never thought about this till right now. It's like the other side of that is maybe you're the one guy that he is actually going to remember because you're the one guy or gal who didn't try to give him a business card or didn't try to get something from him. You just wanted to go make a connection, So maybe that sticks in there somehow. And, they just remember you as like that funny guy who came over and did that.
Right.
Yeah, that guy's got Michael Jackson's birthday.
Yeah. I mean, that's a way of looking at it too. Yeah.
I know. I'm trying to smooth it over for you.
Yeah. Yeah, man.
Tell me, let's talk while we're talking about Beyonce and Jay. Let's talk about them a little bit in terms of obviously your work with them and when you make that leap, like when you think of the level that you're at with them. By the way, I was at that On the Run tour.
Okay.
Giants Stadium, Giants Jets, whatever the hell stadium they call it, Giants or Jets, right?
Yeah. MetLife Stadium.
MetLife Stadium, thank you. Yeah, and that was insane, man. That was the mix of like the film stuff with the music thing, and just the production was just crazy, like next level. When you think about that, right, the stuff you do with them and with her,
right,
and you go back to being a 27-year-old doing Jeff Red.
Right.
Just breaking in. How does that make you feel?
Well, remember I told you about that Facebook post?
Yeah.
It was one of those. It's one of those things when you really think back of everything you've gone through in life and where you are in your present, state, present state of life or whatever. I have no choice but to be super grateful because, like I said, things could have gone an entirely different way for me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's incredible. Like I think about sometimes, sometimes I really hate not even sometimes, a lot of times I really hate being on the road because I don't like being away from my kids too long, but some of the things that my kids have and have been able to do are because of the fruits of my labors, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And, I'm just super grateful that I've had the opportunities that I've had, man. It's been a great run for me,
Tell me about the Michelle Obama 50th at the White House. I got to imagine that was one of those moments where you're like, what, are you kidding me?
Wow. Let me tell you how that went. I got to start from the beginning of the whole Obama inauguration. I was on a flight to Chicago because B was doing the Oprah Winfrey show. This is back in 2009, I believe. While I'm on the flight, you know who Valerie Jarrett is?
I know the name, yeah.
Valerie Jarrett, she ended up being on part of his staff, you know what I mean, once he was elected. But I saw Valerie Jarrett, like this was on a Monday. The day before I was watching Meet the Press, that NBC show. And Valerie Jarrett was on there and she was talking about, his election and, the inauguration and stuff like that. So I'm on this flight to Chicago with one of my colleagues that works with B2. And I see Valerie Jarrett and I'm like, wow, that's cool. I just saw her on TV yesterday. So we get to Chicago, we get off, and I remember her talking about the inauguration. So I walked up to her and introduced myself and I said, listen, this is a risky move, but it played off. And I said, I'm pretty sure, like I work for Beyonce, and I'm pretty sure she'd be honored if she could be involved in the inauguration. And she was like, oh, really? We love Beyonce. So
you just dropped that? You never talked to me about it?
Nope. Wow. Like I said, it was a serious gamble. And I gave her my card. And once I got to the Oprah set, I think it was like, because we were there on Monday, and then Tuesday we had to set up and everything to prepare for and do a sound check and everything. So I saw Yvette, that publicist. I tell you that's Beyonce's main publicist, and I told Yvette what happened. And I said, I spoke to Valerie Jarrett, and I said B would love to do it. Like, I'm just hoping, that this will be cool. You know what I mean? And she was like, that was really smart of you. That was good. I'm going to talk to her, but we're going to see if we can make this happen. And then Beyonce sings at, at Obama's inauguration. So that happened. So I helped establish, well, not even establish, but I helped set up that relationship, so the Obamas and the Carters are friends and everything. So, and then here we go. So we're at the White House for Michelle Obama's birthday. So we're in, I forget which room it is, but it's one of those rooms in the White House. It's like the green room or the whatever room. And it's all these like old historic paintings and old furniture. And they're like, whatever you do, don't sit on this couch and, all this stuff. But meanwhile, we got all of our like monitor gear there, my playback rig, all this stuff. So the actual party, the band is set up in this bigger room, like this ballroom kind of thing. And the Obamas were going to the party. A lot of people are already there. So they're now making their entrance, but they have to cut through the room we're in, right? So here comes Barack Obama with a glass of champagne. He walks through. And like I don't even know what to say. Like I don't even know like I don't want to stick my hand out and try to just shake his hand because I don't want Secret Service to pop me in the head. Like, you know what I mean? So I'm just standing there, right? And I'm just looking. He's like, "Hey, everybody! Hey, thanks for doing this for us and all this stuff." So I'm like, "Oh yeah," I'm just smiling like, "Yeah, oh shit." You know what I mean? So he walks right past me, and Michelle Obama is like a couple of steps behind him, and I think she could see that I didn't know what to say or do. So she literally walks up to me and grabs, like, you know how like somebody grabs you by your arms, like kind of like shakes you in a way? Yeah. She puts her hands on me and she goes, "It's my birthday." And I was like, "Yeah, I heard." And she started laughing and I was just like, "Oh, wow, that was crazy." And then of course they walk out and they're all of the monitor guys and they were like, "Yo, that was crazy. That was crazy." Wow. So yeah, that was such a cool moment, man.
I bet, man.
And unfortunately, like they make you turn over your cell phones, all of that stuff as security. Right. So sure. I couldn't get a picture with them or anything like that.
Right.
But that wasn't our first time there. We did a show for them, and I think it was like at the time it was like the president of Mexico was there, so they had like a little entertainment and everything, and Beyonce was the entertainment, and that was maybe a year or two before the 50th birthday thing.
I mean, I would think that bigger than the Super Bowl stuff, right? Bigger than any bigger tour. I got to imagine being at the White House.
Yeah.
Not these days, but being at the White House,
right?
For doing what you do, and figuring it out the way you did had to be one of those moments where you're like, "Wow."
Yeah, it was incredible, man.
I figured my way out here.
Yeah, and in the moment, you don't think of it like that.
Hell no. You're like, please don't let anything go wrong.
Exactly.
Right?
Yes. No problems.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was incredible, man. It was just incredible.
I bet.
Yeah.
I bet. Kwiz, where are you most comfortable? Guiding people's careers, behind the desk, producing, out on the road, recording, in the studio recording. Where's that sweet spot for you where like, out of all of it, you're like, I'm home. These are my comfy shoes.
Producing and mixing. I love that. Like that is my main goal right now. That's all I want to do. I don't want to do much of anything else. You know what I mean? I just want to, like my prayer to the Most High, to the universe, whatever, is that I can make the same money that I make on the road, if not more, being at home, producing and mixing. Because that's what I love to do. I love it, man.
Yeah.
Like I'm in my studio right now. As soon as we finish, I'm going to be in there working on some stuff.
Are you home? Is Rhythm Lab your home studio?
No, it's a separate building.
A separate whole thing.
Yeah. It's just, it basically, I have, again, another thing where I'm fortunate. My dad and mom separated like years ago, right? And, but my parents were always good friends, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But my dad had a 1-bedroom co-op apartment. And when he passed away, like I didn't know what to do with this place. And I decided, you know what? I'm going to make this my studio. I'll keep it, I'll make it my studio. My dad already paid for it, you know what I mean? So I just have to pay the maintenance fee every month, you know what I mean? So I just turned this 1-bedroom apartment into a studio. And fortunately, like it's a ground floor thing, which is cool.
Yeah.
And I have a neighbor upstairs, but they're really cool. And like I can crank it up a little bit when I'm trying to test and listen to some low end and whatever. I don't really monitor that loud anyway. Mm-hmm. And I've been here since 2004, I think.
Wow.
2005. Yeah.
It's a good looking studio, man. The pictures online.
Oh yeah, thank you.
A lot of toys in there.
Yeah, thanks, man. That's years of accumulating stuff. You know what I mean? It's not like one day I was like, oh, I'm going to buy all this stuff and bomb. You know, it took years to get it to where it is. You know.
So again, for young people listening who think like, oh, I can't start my thing until I get that really good thing that he or she's got in their studio, right? What do you say to that?
If you can afford to buy a Shure SM57, a $99 microphone, that's pretty much a bulletproof microphone. You could drop it, you could slam it. You can record anything with that mic. Anything. Vocals, drums, violins, anything. Now, I'm not saying it's the best mic for everything, but what you're trying to do is just capture a moment, a sonic moment. If you can afford to get a $99 mic and get a really inexpensive audio interface, the most inexpensive laptop or computer you could find, a Mac or a PC, used or whatever, because I could tell you a lot of my stuff, especially computer-wise with Macs, I buy a lot of stuff refurbished. My current trash can I bought on eBay, used. You know what I mean? Like, everything doesn't have to be brand new. Everything doesn't have to cost $1 million to get a good recording. Like, you can do this. It's like anything else. When you get your first bike and you don't know how to ride, you have training wheels. Once you start to learn how to ride, you take those training wheels off, but you still crash because you're not that great of a bike rider yet. You can't go bike racing. You can't start, jumping the bike and everything. You got to start slow, and you got to learn what that bike can do. It's the same thing with that with equipment. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? You learn it. To me, it's like, if you can afford good stuff, if you can afford it. But if you can't, get what you can afford. Get the best thing you can afford and work with it. Because one of the things I learned early is, like, you're super creative when you're limited. When you have super limitations on you, you find a way to make what you have work. It's not about all the bells and whistles, and everybody wants all the bells and whistles. But I can also say from experience that sometimes when you have all the bells and whistles, you're not as creative. Mm-hmm. Because you have so many choices. Sometimes you don't know what choice to you're in the studio playing with all kinds of stuff and you get nothing done. Yep. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do.
I have a home office studio that is very modest. I don't have any hardware synthesizers. I don't have any drums set up. I just have my laptop. I have a drum machine. I use a Native Instrument machine. I have an Apollo twin interface and some virtual synths. And sometimes all I want to do is create. And I create there. I won't even come to my studio. I create there because I know I can't do everything I want here. But what can I do with what I have? And that, when I'm doing ESPN, ESPN, I usually start in my office too. My home office. I usually start there because I'm like, it's about me and being creative. It's not about, okay, well, let me pull out the knee for this or the SSL compressor and throw that. Forget that. Yeah. Forget that. Just create, man. Just be simple. And like back in the day when I first got in the record industry, one of the things that always stuck, I don't remember who told me this, but it was a record exec, and he told me simplicity sells. You know what I mean? And when you have a great, simple song that it's easy for them to remember, they don't care about the arrangements. They don't care what kind of drum machine you used or what bass amp was on that. They don't care. They just want to hear the song. And if it's a simple thing that's easy to remember, that's a great song. Yep. It's the same thing with equipment. Yep. It's the same thing.
Yep. While we're talking about keeping it simple and relationship to gear, I just want to bounce back before we wrap it up to your relationship with Beyonce. And when you are fortunate, when one is fortunate enough to find themselves in situations like that as they're working their way up, talk to me about the trust that gets built in a relationship like that. And, you know, mistakes not to make. And how you come into someone's sphere like that, right? And and be there for them so that they know, you know, that guy or that girl, they got me.
Okay. Well, when I first started, well, I got to take it to the before I even met Beyonce. I got called one day from a musician friend of mine that asked me, do you want to program for Sierra, the artist Sierra? And I was like, program what? Keyboards? What are you talking about? And he was like, I don't know. Like, this guy just called me and he said he needs somebody to program digital performer, to program tracks in digital performer. And I know you know digital performer. You want to try to do that gig? And I was like, sure, I'll try it. You know. Didn't even ask how much he paid. I was just like, that sounds interesting. Yeah, let me see what's up. So I had to go to SIR in New York. I met the MD, was a woman named Kim Burse, and she basically said, this is for a Good Morning America performance, and I need you to edit these tracks for this particular performance so we can get the arrangement right, practice with the band, boom, boom, boom. It was a 3-day gig. So I did what she asked, did it, went to Good Morning America like 4 o'clock in the morning to set up and all that stuff. We did the show, boom, it was over. So she said, I really like how you work. If I ever have another opportunity, I'll call you. So I was like, all right, cool. You know, arranged to get my little pay and, you know, that was it. So my girlfriend at the time, who's an actress, was doing a play in Chicago. And I was out in Chicago just hanging out with her. And I get a call, and it's Kim Burse. It's like literally a year later. And I'm like, hey, I just saw you guys on Access Hollywood. You were with Beyonce, and that was cool, you know. And she was like, oh, well, that's what I'm calling you about. Do you want a program for Beyonce? So I'm thinking it's another one of those 3-day gigs, and, you know. And I was like, sure, but I'm in Chicago right now, and I won't be back until Wednesday. I think it was like Wednesday or Thursday. And she was like, okay, well, we'll wait. And I was like, oh, okay. So it's like, okay. So literally, I fly, when I come back to New York, I go from the airport straight to SIR, and I walk in, and it's this whole all-female band, and I see this rig with gear in it that I've never seen before. And she was like, well, there's the computer. Those are the computers, and we need you to start like editing and stuff like that. And this computer had a changeover unit, a switcher, A/B switcher, and it was a custom made piece. And I've never seen it before. Didn't know how it worked. I asked the guy that was doing production management at the time, so how does this work? And he was like, I have no idea. Like, you know, like, and I'm like, well, do you guys have a manual or something? And he was like, nah, this was custom made. I was like, oh, God. Like, wow. You know what I mean? So meanwhile, I've got to do playback and do all this stuff. And I don't know what this switcher is doing. So all I'm doing is basically working off of one computer. So Beyonce comes in, Kim Burse introduces me to her. I'm like, oh, wow, nice to meet you. So I overhear them talking about, it wasn't Crazy in Love. It was, let's just say it was Crazy in Love. I can't remember the song. All right. But I overhear them saying that they want to drop that song a half step. And, you know, they want the band to learn how to play it a half step lower or whatever. So while they're saying that, I'm like, oh, wow. I highlight all the musical tracks except for the drums. And in digital performer, you can, drop things and pitch, within reason without getting munchkinization or anything like that.
Yeah.
And so I dropped it a half step. And, this was back when G4 towers were out.
Yeah.
So they weren't as fast, So these tracks are rendering and I'm like, oh God, hurry up. You know what I mean? So it just finished rendering and Kim Burst turns around and she goes, Kwiz, we wanted to drop Crazy in Love a half step. Can you do that in this computer? And I just hit play and they heard the half step lower and like Beyonce turned around, they were like, oh wow. And I went, wow, like Bruce Lee. And they just busted out laughing. And that's how I broke the ice with her.
Wow.
So I find out later, within that week or whatever, that there were 6 other programmers that worked with them and they all either quit or got fired. And I was like, damn, the turnover is, I'm on the hot seat right now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they got fired or they quit because Beyonce is such a hard worker. It's really, really stressful trying to deal with her, with somebody that's so intense when it comes to rehearsing and, you know what I mean? And it was challenging in the beginning because I was like, man, this is stressful, man. It's really stressful. But it got to the point where we are now doing the first tour that I was touring with them and shows were going fine and there were situations where things weren't necessarily we would have technical problems, but I would fix them like really quickly. And then Kim Burr said, she just told me one day, you know what? If you want to keep this gig, this is your gig. B loves you. We really like what you're doing and all that stuff. So I built up a trust. You know what I mean? Of just being reliable and I'm not saying anything I did some old miraculous stuff or anything. I just made sure I did my job to the best of my ability. And if something messed up and it was my fault, I'd own up to it. I wouldn't. The one thing I don't want to do, I don't ever want to bullshit anybody, especially when you're doing something like that. It's what's the point? You know what I mean?
Yep.
I've like I said, I've always been honest. I've always tried to be a stand-up guy. You know what I mean? And there's been times where I've been mad. Beyonce's been mad at me. I've been mad at her, and we've had words. But it was always, I know there was always this mutual respect. It's just all right, we're not agreeing on this right now. And we're a little annoyed with each other, but it wasn't I'll never work for her again, or I think I should fire you. I mean, there was a situation that happened in Japan one time where it was yo, what? She kind of blew me up in front of the audience.
Wow.
For something that wasn't my fault. And if it was my fault, I'd be like, wow, that sucked. You know what I mean? But it was something that wasn't my fault. I won't get into the particulars, but at the end of the day, she ended up apologizing. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And I can respect that because we all make mistakes. We all have moments, and it is what it is. Yeah. And even this last tour we did, her and I had a moment, and where Jay was on stage and we were rehearsing and I was frustrated about a situation, and I never bite my tongue. I'm never, I won't bullshit you even when I'm annoyed. I'm going to tell you how I feel. I won't necessarily talk to you like another dude in the street. Right. But I'm going to tell you how I feel. You know what I mean? And we had one of those moments. And it was and she smacked me down. You know what I mean? But it was all right. It is what it is. After we did the rehearsal, I walked over her to fully explain where I was coming from. And the first thing she saw me, the first thing she did was go, she put her fist up yo, we're going to fight. And I put my fist up like, yeah. And then, we laughed and it was over. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
So there's love there. There's love from just a fellow man's standpoint.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's respect there. So
yeah.
As annoying and aggravating that gig can be sometimes, for not just because of her, it's just for other, just trying to deal with hundreds of people trying to get things done. It could be super frustrating, but it's gratifying when you see the end results.
Yeah.
Hey, we bust our ass, but look at what we did.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
yeah. It just strikes me. It's interesting. Do you know who Dave Natal is?
Dave Natal. That name is really familiar. It sounds really familiar. What is he do?
Dave is front of house for the Rolling Stones.
Okay.
That's his gig, right? He's been there for a long, long time.
Right.
Prior to that, Tina Turner, some
Wow.
big bands.
Right.
And when Dave was on the show, he hit the two things that you did, and I just want to bring them together for people because I think it's fascinating that at the level that you both are at, right? I mean, they're kind of the Rolling Stones for what they do, right?
Yeah.
He said he mics them, vocals and guitar amps with 57s and 58s. Nothing fancy. Right. And the same thing about taking responsibility. Do your job. And if you fuck up, you are the first one, on the carpet to take it on the chin and say, I fucked up.
Yeah.
It won't happen again. Don't try to pass it off on somebody else. Don't make excuses.
Right.
This is in my sphere and I fucked it up and I'm sorry. And I just find it great that you had that same thing and you guys have the same perspective at the top, because again, I think when you're at the bottom and you're working your way up, you think that there's some magic up there.
Yeah.
There's no magic, right?
None.
I mean, you and Dave you're waking up this morning trying to figure out where your next check's coming from.
Yeah.
Right? And like, what's the next thing I'm going to do?
Yeah.
And keeping it simple and keeping a strong work ethic and taking responsibility and accountability keeps you honest, keeps the music honest, and off you go.
Yeah. That's it.
That's it. God, we just solved it all, man.
A lot of people don't see it that way. But you know what it is? It's also just not being afraid of being wrong. Because nobody's ever 100% right, ever. Right. So, and sometimes, when you're wrong, it forces you to focus in a little bit more so you don't ever make that mistake again. And then just makes you a better whatever. Yeah. Whatever you're doing in life, you know what I mean?
I do, man.
Yeah.
Kwiz, I can't thank you enough for doing this. I appreciate it.
Thank you, man. This thing has been kind of cathartic, man. You know what I mean? I appreciate you even asking me to do it, man.
You're very welcome, dude. You're very welcome. Hopefully I'll catch up with you soon.
No doubt, man.
Kwiz, my man, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Guys, we're going to see you next week, episode 147 with Eric Rogers. You can follow us during the week at Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, SoundCloud, iTunes, Google Podcasts, YouTube, and Spotify, all as Roadie Free Radio. Check out the website, roadiefreeradio.com. Send me a note because I want to hear from you. That's info@roadiefreeradio.com. And in the meantime, y'all be safe out there. No roadies, no rock and roll.